If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have...
What, Hillary? Come on now. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap. It's Wednesday. So exciting to be Wednesday and one more day closer to Friday. I do hope you guys are all having a good morning and had a good evening. Colonel Joe Adams joining us today at 8 a.m. Cannot wait to talk to Colonel Joe Adams of the Washington Guard. I think he's going to have a lot to lend to everything that's going on right now. Good morning, Allison. Hope you're doing good this morning. Lots to talk about today. It never ends. You know, that's one great thing about Donald Trump being president is the news never ends. There's definitely something going on every day to continue to talk about. So keeping us all very busy with the news. So some of the things I'm going to get into today is what's going on in Guantanamo Bay. Why are they building a new courthouse in Guantanamo Bay? Who is going to be tried in this courthouse? You know, questions to be asked. We're going to talk about drones. We finally got some answers on the drones, or did we? Maybe we have more questions now than answers. You know, Trump, a third term. Is Trump going to have a third term? It's possible. Good morning, Phyllis. A third term, it would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it? We're definitely going to get into that. People still losing their minds over deportations more than ever, which is, of course, why I started out the show in the way that I did. Oh, it's all Donald Trump. No, you know, Obama actually deported in his term. He deported more people, I believe, than any other president before him at that time. Bill Clinton deported quite a few people as well. You know, Donald Trump, of course, is going to break all records. Good morning, Karen. If indeed, you know, his executive order continues to carry on. So we'll see if it ends up being stopped. I don't think they'll stop it because I think every president, if there's any right you have, it is deportations. And we may or may not talk about that with Colonel Joe Adams. I'm not sure what he has on his agenda this morning. Avian flu, man. We got to talk about that a little bit today because we're getting to this point where, you know, egg prices are going sky high. I know we've certainly talked about it before. I'm not going to talk about it a lot today, but it's pretty serious. You know, they're expecting egg prices to raise another 20 to 30%, another big poultry farm getting hit really hard. Good morning, Tammy Jerry Hoover. So I want to get to that today. We're going to talk about a couple of Trump's executive orders. Has been halted by a judge. We'll talk about that. Let's see here. We know Biden, some of the things Biden was going to do, which thankfully we put a stop to. We'll get into that. Saving ourselves some money. I don't know if you guys heard, there was a man arrested at the U.S. Capitol on Monday. I didn't even hear about this till later on. So we'll talk about that. What was he doing? Why was he arrested? And of course, we're going to talk about Donald Trump banning chemical castration, puberty blockers, any type of trans surgery for children. Now, who could argue against this? For the kids, right? For the kids. Tucker Carlson, Trump has been hinting around that Tucker Carlson has some secrets to share. So we'll be following along with Tucker Carlson. I feel like he has secrets to share every day. I've actually watched his show in quite some time. I need to do that. And I never really was a steady watcher anyway, because I don't watch television. I would kind of see clips, you know, here and there. But I'm kind of wondering what it is he's got to talk about. Obviously, federal buyout, you know, with federal workers. So we're going to talk about that also. Lots to talk about. Good morning, Annette. And Allison said, so the drones were research drones. What were they researching? That's the big question, is it? What were they researching? You know, California Mayor, what's her name? Yes, I remember her name. I'm not going to say it today because I can't stand that woman. Who lied. I mean, she lied to Donald Trump, lied to his face, and said she would not require people to get these orange permits to be able to return to their homes. And then guess what? Guess what? All a lie. Here's a little clip right here of an LA resident who is attempting to get back to their home after the wildfires. Unbelievable. And in my opinion, unconstitutional. You own your property, you own your home. You have the right to be on your property. No one, in my opinion, has the right to stop you from going to your home. Hopefully my buttons work better than today. It's kind of funny because they worked perfectly fine until a few seconds ago. I don't know what it is. It's like once I start the show,
after that,
everything just goes crazy.
But why can't I just go now?
That's just my order, sir.
How long is the orange pass thing?
I got to. I'm not sure if there's an expiration date or anything.
No, but there's a line.
I fully understand that, sir, but there's rules and protocols we got to follow.
So it's January 27th.
Yes, sir.
I haven't been able to get to my house.
Yes, sir.
For 20 days.
I fully understand that.
And it's right down there. It's about 1 minute over there.
Yes, sir.
And here's my address.
Yeah, I fully understand that.
So you want me to go wait in line for 2 hours?
Sir,
that's what they're told. That's what we're told to advise, sir. You have to go down to where he's telling you, to zone 3, and then you get the pass. Once you get the pass, you're able to come up.
But there's like a mile wait to get into zone 3.
I understand, because there's all the people that are trying to get the passes. But that's what in order for you to get by, past this checkpoint, you need to get that pass.
Right, but President Trump and Mayor Bass said that we could go.
Trust me, I understand. I'm just telling you what we were advised by our command post. They're telling you the same thing. They were advised by their command post.
I'm not giving you guys a hard time.
No, I know.
And I appreciate your service.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate it, but that's unfortunately one of the things that you have to do.
Okay.
Is go get a pass.
So I'm back, and it's now January 27th at 9:50 in the morning, and I have to go wait in a multi-hour, probably 5-hour line to get a pass to go to my house.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
That is correct. Oh, I mean, yeah, sure. If you want to come home, go get in line, go get your pass. I don't care that it takes you 5 hours. And of course, these two guys are just following the orders of the mayor, which I'm sure is following orders of the governor. And I hope this wakes everyone up. And the reason why some people probably think, well, this is a non-issue, it's no big deal. It's a really big deal because it's happening to them now, but it could be happening to us next. And what's going to happen when you pull up to the checkpoint and you cannot get to your own home? Your home's, 1 minute down the road, like this guy, and they're telling you, nope, sorry, nope. You cannot return to your home. Absolutely ridiculous. Good morning, Linda. Allison says, Carolina Levitt. Am I saying that right? Levitt was brilliant at the White House press briefing. She brought up the egg shortage. I didn't watch it. Again, I don't watch television or the news, but I did see little clips of it, on Telegram and on some other places. And I actually have one of her clips to play, and we can actually do that right now. Charles says, the old adage goes, if you don't pay your taxes, you will see who owns your home. You are paying for the privilege of owning a home in that county. I'll tell you, it's really unbelievable, isn't it? That to me, I guess I always say that freedom is an illusion. We as Americans, we feel very free. We feel as though we go about our lives every day. We go back and forth to work. We have the freedom of choice. Do we want to get up and go to work today, or do we not? Do we want to take a vacation? Do we want to go to the grocery store? Do we want to do this, or that? And it's always a choice. And going to work and coming back to your home is a pretty normal thing. And can you imagine being told that you can't return to your home? And now, of course, they're trying to work out these orange passes. And oh yeah, you can go back to your house, but first, you got to go head down this line and wait in line for 5 hours to get an orange pass, which is unconstitutional, to return back to your property. And Jay says restricted freedom via regulations. There's the key word, Jay, regulations. We're regulated for just about everything, aren't we? Which is kind of why, sometimes you'll see people comment here or on social media, and they'll talk about people, oh, I saw somebody out, driving around and their license plate was expired for, X number of years, and people are just lose their minds over that type of thing. And to me, I honestly don't care, because to me, a license plate and paying these personal property taxes and everything else is just more over regulation. And that's why when I see those people, it doesn't bother me. Now, I understand that some of them also probably don't have, auto insurance because they don't care enough to pay their taxes. They probably don't care enough to get insurance. I don't think that's the case all the time. I think that's the case some of the time. But we're over regulated in just about every sector. And when it comes to your home, to me, your home is number one. Don't over regulate when it comes to your home. And Mary's, good morning, Mary, says government entanglements suck. Yes, they do. Lots of red tape. Good morning, Joe. And Jay says, can't even fish without a permit, among hundreds of other things. You need a permit for just about everything except for what? Having a child. You don't need a permit to have a child. And probably why we have, what is it, about 115, 120,000 very serious cases of child abuse every year. It's kind of funny how that works, isn't it? And Charles says, LA reminds me of Hawaii fire, which we don't hear about that much anymore. No, we don't. And that was, of course, in Lahaina. And, we were still not hearing everything there is to know about North Carolina. A lot of people still missing, not just, we tend to say North Carolina, but also in Tennessee, Georgia, parts of South Carolina. They're still paying the price for Helene. And Jay says, look at what they have done with, oh my gosh, don't even get me started on an HOA. Don't even get me started. Before I moved where I am now, I lived somewhere over in Wing Haven, over by, if you guys know where the boardwalk is, way back in there by the boardwalk. And there, the HOA there is absolutely ridiculous. There'd be this little guy driving around in his golf cart with his little orange cones, and just writing people up left and right, measuring people's grass. And he must, I don't know how he knew who I was, but he always gave me a dirty look. But for some reason in that HOA, you couldn't park on the street. Our driveways were in the back of the house, and you kind of drove down this little mini roadway behind your home. And, because of course they wanted the front of the homes to be like a little storybook. It looked like a little Hallmark village, and you could not park in front of your home. You could not park there overnight. And you had to have a pass if you wanted to have a party or any kind of situation where people parked outside of your home. You had 4 parking spots in your driveway, and that was all you were allotted. And 1 vehicle per person, according to the HOA. And we had like 4 cars between my son and I, so we had to hide some in the garage, which was pretty funny. Let's see here. Good morning, Scott. Dottie. Want to own a car, pay a tax, drive the car, pay a tax, put the fuel in, pay a tax. Drive on certain roads, pay more tax. You got that right, Dottie. Not for long, not for long. Let's hope that those no income tax and some of these other taxes are cut out as we expect. Joe says, I've known several elderly people who have lost their home due to real estate taxes after their home had been paid off for years. Yeah, that's another situation. Anyone can go out and purchase your taxes. And that's a big hardship for a lot of elderly people who are really making some difficult choices. So hopefully we'll be able to alleviate some of that burden from them in the coming days and weeks. I know we've got a ton to talk about today because, of course, Colonel Joe Adams joining us in just a short few minutes. I'm going to jump right into this. There's 2 things I'm hoping to cover before Colonel Adams joins us. One, will there be a 3rd term for Donald Trump? Will there be a 3rd term? I mean, I saw a video the other day. I didn't play. I loaded it up. I don't think I ever played it because I've been having these issues, with my buttons. And I think I've gotten that mostly sorted out. So I'm going to play it today. But when Donald Trump was kind of joking and hinting about a 3rd term, I thought, oh, he's just kidding. That's not going to happen. And I don't think most Americans, even supporters of Donald Trump, may not necessarily support a 3rd term just because it is a change to the Constitution. And then let me play the video for you first. Now, this is what I saw the other day, and I was going to play it again, I think on Monday. I can't remember which day, one of those days this week, and I didn't because of my buttons. But I've been thinking about it a lot, and then I realized there's more to this. I thought it was a joke. It's not a joke.
You'll have to think
If I
about
can
that.
get this to play.
I've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again, Mike? I better not get you involved in that argument. No, we raised a lot of money, a tremendous amount.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there will be a third term. I'm not going to rule it out. Sorry, I'm trying to bring my camera up. I thought I had it figured out where I could more easily do this, but for some reason, there we go. It's like if I think I'm pressing the button too. I don't know what's going on with my buttons. I'm not going to focus on that. But so a third term, I thought Donald Trump was joking. I thought he was joking. And then I saw that House Republican Andy Ogles introduced a House bill to potentially give Trump a third term. Now, I'm assuming that if you're here and you're listening to this show, you probably support Donald Trump. And so I would be really curious what you think and if you would support a third term. And part of this House bill, I'm going to read this to you exactly. There's a lot on this House bill, but this is probably the main phrase. And it says, no president shall be elected to the office of president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected in 2 consecutive terms. So Andy Ogles is basically wanting to change the term limits. But what's important here is this is very much suited towards Donald Trump, because part of the wording in this particular House bill is that it can't be 3 consecutive terms. It has to be a situation where a president serves 1 term and then they're out for a term or more, and then they can come back and serve 2 more terms. So that's the wording. So this is not going to apply to somebody like Obama who served his terms. He's not going to be able to step back in and serve a third term. You can't, if you've served 2 consecutive terms, then it doesn't count for you. And let's see here. Joe says, I would believe he was already on the third term. He won 2020, so he will tell everyone in time that he's actually on the third term. I don't think so. Yes, he did legally win, in my opinion, but didn't serve. So I don't know that that counts. Daddy, maybe he has to do with 2020. I don't think so. I really think, and again, I don't know what's going on. Andy Ogles may have introduced this House bill without ever even talking to Donald Trump. It probably isn't going to go anywhere because obviously it has to pass through both houses. We know that's not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen, I don't think, to get this through. But I do think it's kind of interesting that they're at least trying. Jay says, I wouldn't support a third term. Too big of a can of worms. I'm with you on that, Jay. I don't think I would. So as much as I love Donald Trump, I don't think I would support it either. Only because I think that I don't want to change the Constitution when it comes to that type of term limit, because unfortunately, somewhere down the line, we could end up with someone that runs again and that we don't want. We end up getting stuck with them, for 2 more terms. We don't want that to happen. And Allison says, no way Obama would run again. Yeah, and under this House bill, he wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't work for him. Charles says, the rule states that a president can't serve more than 2 consecutive terms. Correct, meaning that Donald Trump served 1 term, then he had 4 years off, and according to this House bill, he could come back and serve 2 more terms. However, if he'd already had 2 consecutive terms, then he could not run for a third term. So if you're a president, let's say for your 8 years, your 2 terms, you cannot run for a third term. But if you're president for 4 years, and then you don't serve the next 4 years, you don't win that election, then you can come back and serve 2 more consecutive terms, is how it's worded. And, so that would certainly fit, the situation with Donald Trump. And of course, extenuating circumstances, considering he is only the 2nd president in history to have ever served non-consecutive terms. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know what's going to happen. I don't expect that this House bill to go anywhere, but I did think Trump was joking, and maybe he is kind of joking because he probably knows that most Americans, even his supporters, wouldn't support this type of change to the Constitution. I know I don't. I would love to see Donald Trump serve in some other capacity. Perhaps he could be an advisor. That's something that to think about in future terms. We'll see how it all works out. I don't expect anything to go there, but I do think some liberals are going to lose their minds, just like they are over deportations. I think they are going to lose their minds because they're all thinking, oh, remember how they all said, oh, if Donald Trump wins, he'll be a dictator. He'll never leave office. He'll be our president forever. No one else will ever be elected. We'll never have another election. And so I know in knowing Trump, he's probably playing that up to the best of his ability just to make fun of these people. And because, Donald Trump, if there's anything you can say about him, he loves to troll people. He loves to troll people. So again, Colonel Joe Adams is going to join us here in just a few minutes, 5 more minutes. We'll be talking to him. And then what I want to do, I hope I sent him the right link this morning. I guess, yeah, there he is. So I'm thinking, man, did I even send him a link this morning? So I want to talk about that. After we talk to Colonel Joe Adams, I'm going to play a video for you. And in my opinion, it's child abuse. And what this video entails is a young boy, just a child, transitioning, into becoming a female, pre-puberty. And this is exactly why Donald Trump wrote the executive order to make sure that we block chemical castration, hormone therapy, trans surgery for anyone under the age of 18. And the video, I think, is very important to see, because then you can see and with your own eyes exactly what's going on and why he wrote this executive order. It is literally to protect the children. And people think, oh, that's 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds. No, sometimes it is very small children. This person, I think it's 10 years old. This little boy is 10 years old in this video. And then you start thinking about, gosh, is the parent abusive? Why would they allow their 10-year-old boy to run around like a little girl, and to the extent where they call this little boy a she and are, planning for him to have all these different puberty blockers and surgeries and things. So that's something, we're going to talk about, after later on before the end of the show. But something I want to throw out there really quick in the couple minutes before Colonel Joe Adams joins us, and it might even be something he might want to weigh in on, outside of course, of a lot of the threats we're facing right now with deportations and so on, is that Camp Justice, Guantanamo. What's happening in Guantanamo? Catherine Herridge, who I've played a couple of little video snippets of her in the past. She is the person who's been doing this deep dive into Havana syndrome and how Havana syndrome happens, who is it that's perpetrating Havana syndrome, and so on. You guys might recall me talking about that and playing a small video of hers. She has been down in Guantanamo Bay since before the inauguration. And I was thinking, why? If she is somewhere, I'm like, what is she doing there? There's something going on. And she was kind of hinting to something going on. And finally, I got to the bottom of what exactly she says is happening. Now, as of right now, there are only 15 detainees in Guantanamo, at least 15 that we know about. Now, that doesn't mean the government doesn't have to tell us everything when it comes to Guantanamo. And so there could be more there, but we're told there are only 15 detainees. But what's interesting about the situation there is they're building a new courthouse. I think they're calling it building number 3, and it is absolutely enormous. Absolutely enormous. And if you can recall, just about every president outside of Donald Trump has wanted to close Guantanamo. They all want to shut it down. However, Donald Trump started construction in Guantanamo, and that construction continues. And so a big question Catherine Herridge is asking is, why are we building this enormous courthouse? Why are we we're trying to save money, particularly Donald Trump trying to save money, in the government, but yet we're putting millions of dollars. I heard, an estimate of $30 billion going into this particular courthouse. And the question is who are we going to be trying in this courthouse? Are we going to expect massive arrests and people who are going to be charged federally to where we need it? We know it's not going to be the illegals because we're deporting them all. So who is it that we're going to be, holding court for in Guantanamo? It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, the media has not been to Guantanamo since 2019. They're very particular about media going to Guantanamo. They don't allow them to take video unless they see it. So Catherine Herridge was there. She's been taking video. They will not allow her to take video of this courthouse that's under construction. And at the end of the day, after she's done her recording and, they have to look at it, they have to edit it, to where she can only show certain parts and so on. Very secretive, in that area. And that's understandable, of course. That's where we had the, the trial for the 9/11 hijackers and so on, those terrorists. But it wasn't in this courthouse. This is a brand new courthouse. This is a brand new courthouse. No one has been tried yet in this courthouse. So what exactly is going on? And think about this, 15 detainees, but we're paying $450 million a year to keep this facility going. So what exactly is happening? What is going on in Guantanamo? I don't know. We'll just have to hold on and see what happens. And let's see. Allison says, what's going on in Coral Gable, Florida last 2 weeks? 3 different vans bust with a total of 56 Chinese young men. Some firearms were found. I saw that, Allison, and they are well on their way to deportation. And Allison says, I thought that was finished in April 2024. I think they added another courtroom to present courthouse. Whatever is going on right now, Catherine Herridge said that Donald Trump started this construction. It is not complete yet. She wasn't able to show it on video. She thought it was important enough to do an entire series of investigative journalism on what's taking place in Guantanamo. She said the courthouse is absolutely enormous, still under construction. Who is going to be tried there? We don't know. All we can do is wait and see. But in the meantime, we've got Colonel Joe Adams going to join us here. Let me bring Colonel Joe Adams in, of course, with the Washington Guard. And if I can just get my little buttons to work, here we go. Colonel Joe Adams, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Of course, Mr. Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. How are you doing this morning, Colonel Adams?
Hey, good morning. Hey, tomorrow is our 4th anniversary for the Washington Guard. So we're going to celebrate that one. Anyway, I get calls from all over the country. Some of these other militias have been in business for 30 years. They keep asking me, what makes you so different than us? And then I go through that, but I get calls constantly. They can't. Other militias think that we were underground for maybe 30 years and just now surfaced, but now we've only been in business for 4 years and made a great community project from all walks of life, and brought this county together to help serve the most important people in our community, the first responders. So tomorrow, happy anniversary, Washington Guard. Love you all. And hey, I was listening a little while. You guys talking about permits and HOAs?
Yes.
Okay, I got a great permit story for you. So, in that beautiful home that we left in St. Louis, in that snobby subdivision at the corner of Clayton and Hanley, you have to have a permit for everything. I didn't know that. And so one day I'm mowing my grass, which is an oddity. I'm the only person in the neighborhood that mows their grass. Now, don't forget my lawnmower. You ever see that those Flying Tiger airplanes in World War II with the shark teeth and all that? Of course, my ride lawnmower has that. It looks like a
of course it does.
And I've got a 357 Magnum on my hip, and because it's open carry there. And I'm mowing my grass, and I see a car pull over on the street, and it's got one of those weird license plates. You can tell it's a city-owned car by Richmond Heights. And I didn't know what he wanted. And so guy gets out of the car and walks up to me and kind of waving at me. And I turned the lawnmower off, and I said, yeah, can I help you? He goes, is the property owner here? I said, well, I'm the property owner. He goes, wow, you cut your own grass? Huh. Yeah, I cut my own grass. So he says, now understand, I have the biggest flagpole in the neighborhood. It's commercial. It's huge. And he says, I got a question for you. He says, your flagpole. I go, what about my flagpole? He goes, well, I would have had you had to have a permit for that. And that would have came across my desk. I'd do all the permits in this municipality. I said, okay. He goes, but I don't remember seeing a permit for that flagpole. And I said, well, I got a permit. He goes, you do? He's like, well, how did you get a permit without me knowing it? So I pulled up my sleeve and I said, you see that? You see that tattoo right there? United States Marine Corps. There's the only permit I ever need. Goodbye. Never saw him again. So that's my permit story. So I got that permit in 1970. Okay. So anyway, there's your permit.
Good for you, Colonel Adams. That's what we all need to do. We got to stand up to these HOAs.
Well, in the HOAs love me in that community because I brought my team in to protect them during the Ferguson riots. So yes. I could do no wrong with them, but the city, anyway, I never saw the guy again. Anyway, hey, I saw Jim Acosta got canned from CNN, huh?
He did.
Yeah, I didn't hear his last show, but supposedly he's warning America about the tyrannical government Trump, and to warn the public before he left there one more time that don't buy into the lies and the deception of the Trump administration. Well, guess what, Jim? Bye. Look for a job. Punch up your resume. So I enjoyed that. So
what do you guys, people like Colonel Adams, people like him, they just don't get it. They don't get that we won this election because we're tired of people like him. They don't get that we won this election because we need someone like Donald Trump. And he, the reason why CNN and CBS are laying off hundreds of people, eventually maybe thousands of people, is because of exactly people like Jim Costa. Exactly like him. See you later, Jim. Glad to see you go.
And the whole time they were shooting themselves in the foot. And it's only after the election that people suddenly realize, wait a minute, we've been lied to all this time. Not just one lie. Everything in the Biden administration was a lie to hurt America, while he's trying to tell you how much he's helping America. I still ask the same question. Does anybody know anything that Joe Biden ever did during administration that was good for America? I'm still looking. Oh, and I saw that the new press secretary, that 27-year-old good-looking blonde, right? Wow.
She's fantastic.
Well, here's the oddity of her. Where's the book she's reading from for the answers? Nobody. I didn't know about this girl, but she's incredible. Where's her book? Where is she flipping to the page to answer the question? She don't have to. Just tells the truth.
That's right. It's pretty easy when you're telling the truth, isn't it?
Right. And now that the White House is released, they're going into not only the press releases, but they're doing in the press room. They're going to an alternative media session where other media people can come in that wouldn't normally have a chance. The front row seats and everything. So the Trump administration is going to reach out to other media sources. Hey, do you want to come in and ask some questions? Which is unheard. It's never been done.
And that's very much at the urging of Elon Musk, because as you know, he's been very vocal about saying that, citizen journalists are the new media, that people who have podcasts like I do, that we're the new media. We're the people getting the truth out, and we're getting the truth out faster, than any type of mainstream news. And so, yeah, I'm surprised by it. I'm very happy to hear about it. I've already been hearing about different folks that have podcasts going in and putting their name in the hat to see if they can get into the press corps and ask some questions. I mean, what a privilege, that would certainly be.
Also saw the White House released that all those drones they've been spotting are FAA approved.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
and
I told you from day one, they're ours. Now, what the definition of ours is different, right? I've got a drone, it's FAA approved. Registered. So anyway.
You're absolutely right. And Colonel Adams, I don't know if you have a minute to bear with me, but I can actually let me play this very short video. It's only 40 seconds long, and then we'll talk about that for just a second, if you don't mind.
I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office from President Trump directly. An update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists.
Okay, so research and various other reasons. Doesn't that really leave us with more questions than answers? And I always feel like Trump is very transparent. I don't think we're getting the truth on this.
Well, it's like, to quote one of my closest friends, one of the Benghazi survivors, John Teague, like from the movie 13 Hours. He said to me at some banquet, him and I were getting an award for, I don't know what we were getting an award for. He says, you know something, the American public doesn't need to know everything. And what he was actually referring to was some of the dark ops that we run all the time. And so as far as those drones, I have to side with the government, the existing government now in the White House, that the public doesn't need to know everything. So because if the public knows, then the bad guys know. So
I agree. I agree with you, Colonel Adams, because we certainly don't need to know everything. I know we want to know, but we don't need to know. But what I am curious about, maybe maybe you're not sure about this, but we know that right now, this week, they're doing nuclear attack drills in 3 different counties in New York, and then next week they're going to be doing other drills across New York in these same general areas, and that's going to be more like a World War III type scenario exercise they're going to be doing. Do you think these things are related or just completely separate?
No, they're separate. No, those drills have been planned and in the process for years. It's just that the Biden administration tried to twist it around. And no, that's normal. Be glad that they're doing this. Believe me. Yeah, they have to. So they're rehearsing just in case. Well, okay. You'd never be too ready, right? So,
and that's what it seems like, because these people I noticed when it came to the drones, there were a couple of the governor, Kathy Hochul, was very vocal about it. There was a mayor, I can't recall the name of the town right now, there in New Jersey, who was beyond vocal. He was demanding answers. He was telling the officers in his town to shoot these drones down. And then guess what? One day he just shut up. He stopped posting about it. He stopped talking about it. He never said another word, and nor did anyone else. So I'm like, okay, somebody had a talking to this guy and to Kathy Hochul and some other people. But this particular mayor, he had video of drones flying back and forth over his home. He said he'd never seen them before. It was very unusual. And he was very concerned. So I do agree with you. There's something more going on to the drone story, but some things are better left unsaid.
Yeah, but that's his 15 minutes of fame too. So anyway, you got to compare these drills that they're doing and these the nuclear drills, and it's just like when we participate out here in Franklin County with the active shooter drills in schools, and my militia volunteers, and they become the victims or the bad guys or whatever. And it's just it's good to have the drills. In fact, I like this because within the last year they've changed the titles of these drills that we have out here from active shooter drills to active killer drills. I like that. I mean, let's just call it what it is. This is your active killer drills. So it's the same thing on a different scale as far as these nuclear drills and things like that. And it's all good. It's all, don't forget who we got in office, okay? If it wasn't good for America, it wouldn't be there. Donald Trump would take care of it. So
Colonel Adams, you have that right. Now, Colonel Adams, I have a question for you, and I'm relating to a comment Paul asked on the comment line, and that is an area of expertise of yours, of course, I know also, is that he said, we all know we're deporting the cartels. We know the danger the cartels pose to us, but what about the terrorist sleeper cells that are in our country when it comes to deportation? What are we supposed to be looking for?
They don't have any criminal background. Right now, we're liquidating the people that have a criminal background and a criminal history. These sleeper cells are sterile people. We know where their training camps and everything are, but we have no authority to deport somebody who hasn't done anything. And for the most part, they're all here legally. So eventually we'll get to them. I told you before, just like I told you that the only way we can secure the borders is put military troops down there, and God bless the Marines. And he did it. Now, here's another thing. Your listeners need to understand what posse comitatus is. I've heard nobody in the Democratic Party talk about posse comitatus. One journalist mentioned it and they got away from it. And that's about launching troops inside the border, the military inside U.S. borders. But now Trump's declared a national emergency, so we got beyond posse comitatus. But the thing is with the Democrats is they want to say things and they want to try and sink Trump's ship, but they're scared to because the majority of the public support him. So they're very, very careful. But I'm really surprised they haven't used the posse comitatus statute yet. But
Can you explain it to us?
Because the media continues to lie, just like when they had the inauguration, an incredible event on TV. But if you watch CNN and MSNBC, all they did was interview people who hated Trump. So they're still lying. They're just watching their lies a little carefully. That's all. But nothing's changed. Okay, the cockroaches are still the cockroaches. But for the most part, right now, they ran back into the woodwork. But they'll come back. Just turn the lights on. They'll come back.
No question about that. Colonel, I don't know if you can answer this question or not. I've been taught, obviously deportation is on everyone's number one news list right now, of course, with phase one, already underway, getting out the criminals and, violent offenders and so on. And people are, I'm seeing all these liberals saying, oh my God, where's the warrant? And, ICE and all of these other agencies that are participating in deportations, they don't need a warrant. And people just cannot wrap their head around the fact they don't need a warrant. They can come into your place of business. They can come into your home. They can pull you out of your car without a warrant because the power has been invested in them to make these decisions on the spot. No warrant necessary.
And also don't forget, we're under a national emergency alert.
That's
so,
right.
so much for that. We don't need a no-knock warrant. Don't need no stinking badges, right? Anyway, hey, somebody told me last week when I was out of town, were you guys talking about Jimmy Hoffa? How did that get brought up?
Well, we were talking about that in regard to Donald Trump releasing or declassifying the files for MLK, JFK, RFK. And I say, well, what about Jimmy Hoffa? Knowing that his daughter, lives here in the St. Louis area. She is a retired judge now. She was a judge in Ladue for quite some time, and I believe in Clayton also. And she presided over a case actually in my family, which is how I became familiar with her being in this area. And I know that you chimed in and said, you know the answers.
Yeah. But you want to talk about that?
Yes, let's talk about it. Where's Jimmy Hoffa? Is he in Lake Tahoe? That's what I keep hearing.
I can tell you exactly where he's at, but I can tell you what happened and how it led to his disappearance. So if you really want to know, I mean, it's common knowledge that I'm close friends with the Hoffa family, have been for years, did a lot of work for them, found a witness for the Jimmy Hoffa disappearance that according to Channel 2, the FBI couldn't find this witness, but they told Jimmy's daughter and that they see Jimmy disappeared before DNA. Okay, nobody had DNA research. So then about maybe 10 years ago, something like that, longer than that, the FBI told Jimmy's daughter, because the FBI would keep them updated on what the progress and all that stuff is, because they know what happened to him. Anyway, it's convoluted. So the FBI pays a visit to Jimmy's daughter, who's, by the way, is one of the most reputable and respected judges in St. Louis County.
Her name is Barbara Ann Crancer, yes.
Yep. She married Bob Crancer. And in fact, if you look at the old videos of Jimmy Hoffa being released from prison, there's a guy with sunglasses giving Jimmy a coat, and that would be Barbara's husband, Bob Crancer, who just recently died. Because recently I've been helping Jimmy's daughter relocate to another home in St. Louis. They sold their home in Ladue, Barbara did. And so in fact, the guard was involved in part of the moving process and helping her liquidate her estate. Anyway, yeah, I'm really close to them. Before I get to the Jimmy Hoffa disappearance, one of the best comments, the most cherished comments that somebody ever paid me a compliment. me and the Hoffas and I guess my posse used to frequent this Chinese restaurant, and we had special privileges there. Let's just say, right? And on the last day before we all congregated there for our beautiful Chinese family, and Bob Crancer, Jimmy Hoffa's daughter, got up to leave and walked by my table and said goodbye, nice seeing you. And my son was so young, he was in a high chair sitting next to the table. And Jimmy Hoffa's daughter put her hand on my son's head and said, "If my father was still alive, your father would be with him." Now that's a great compliment. Because I grew up in a union family. Jimmy Hoffa was God. So anyway,
same here, Colonel Adams. My grandpa, uncles, all lifelong Teamsters.
Yeah, Jimmy Hoffa was for the man. Now, the question is, who killed him? Well, who killed him? The mob killed him. Okay, so that movie, where Jimmy Hoffa. In fact, I've got the movie poster. Jimmy Hoffa and Jimmy Hoffa Jr. signed it to me, and the greatest private detective in the world, all that kind of stuff. So I've got all kinds of Hoffa. Hold on a second. Come in here in my drawer, my Hoffa pen. In that top drawer. Yeah, it just says Jimmy Hoffa. I got more Hoffa stuff. Anyway, Hoffa goes to jail in '67. Jimmy Hoffa was for the man. Okay. So what happened was, in the movie where Danny DeVito and Jimmy Hoffa are sitting at a restaurant waiting to meet with the mob, because Jimmy's has just now gotten out of prison. That scene is fairly accurate, except for Danny DeVito. So Jimmy was waiting to meet with one of the mob leaders, okay, because they wanted to meet with him. He's out. And the mob was scared of Jimmy Hoffa at this point, because Jimmy Hoffa, you can't push him around. And he's going to do his own thing. The mob didn't like that. When Jimmy went to jail, Jimmy put another guy in charge, and this guy rolls over on the mob, and the mob could work him like a puppet, right? Jimmy gets out of prison, and he's going to attempt to be back in charge of the Teamsters. The mob didn't like that because you couldn't control him. The mob killed him. They come to the restaurant where Jimmy was waiting. They tasered him, killed him, took his body to a local, this is in Detroit, by the way, took him to one of the plants where they produce cars, and they put his body into a bumper compressor, and disintegrated his body. So where Jimmy Hoffa is today, he's a bumper on somebody's 1975 Chrysler. That's all I can tell you.
I've heard that story for years, but I never really gave it a lot of thought, because there are so many different stories out there.
This comes from the family, which I'm partly a member of.
And I'm sure they know.
One of the guys I run with, Allison, was there. Was at the gun show with me. One of my best friends is Jimmy Hoffa's nephew, so I'm in the family. So this comes from the family FBI. So yeah, the reason the file was sealed on Jimmy Hoffa is because of all the interactions with the mob. Jimmy Hoffa wasn't a criminal; he's a businessman. But the mob, once they get their hooks into you, but they couldn't get their hooks in Jimmy Hoffa. That's why they had to kill him. Now, I just had this conversation with Jimmy's daughter. In fact, when some of my men were moving Barbara to her new home, we had some downtime, and before they got there, I was over there by myself, and so me and Jimmy's daughter sat on the patio and just had a small chat, and she somehow the conversation came back to her. Oh, I know what it was. She tried to pay me for helping her move, and I said, "No, I can't take your money." She said, "Well, Joe, you spend a lot of time here, and let me pay you for your time, whatever you want." I go, "No, I'm doing this in honor of your father. If Jimmy was alive, he would say, 'Thanks for helping my daughter,' and that's good enough for me." And then she said, "It's too bad that he was cremated." And what she meant was, the bumper presser, disintegrated his body. And I tried to change the subject as fast as I could. I didn't bring that up. She did. Anyway, so beautiful family. Love them to death. If you wanted a good friend, Jimmy Hoffa was the guy. Now, to show you this DNA thing. So Barbara called me one day and said, could you come over to the house? I need to talk to you. Sure. I go over and she said, the FBI was just here. We had a conversation. Now, this is where Channel 2 picked it up. I didn't even know this was going on. So she said, Chucky O'Brien. They're looking for Chucky O'Brien. Well, Chucky O'Brien was a young kid that Jimmy Hoffa took into his family. He didn't have any home life. Jimmy Hoffa, Chucky O'Brien was brought into the Hoffa family out of love. He's a good kid, right? Well, Chucky got in deep with gambling debts to the mob. Deep. Now, going back to 1975, Chucky O'Brien told the FBI, because Chucky had just got a brand new 75 Chrysler. Chucky O'Brien, in sworn statement, said that my father, Jimmy Hoffa, has never been in my car because they wanted to search. Well, the FBI still got the damn car. So DNA comes around, and all of a sudden, FBI's back on board, and they find a hair belonging to Jimmy Hoffa in that 1975 Chrysler.
Ooh.
Now, Chucky O'Brien said, no, my father's never been in that car. So the FBI tells Barbara, we'd like to interview Chucky O'Brien, and here it comes, but we can't find him. They didn't say they haven't found him. We can't find Chucky O'Brien. Barbara is infuriated and says, you're the FBI. She goes, okay. All right. So she calls me. I go to the house. She goes, I want you to do me a favor. FBI says they can't find Chucky O'Brien, tells me about the hair. Can you find him? I go, yeah, I'll find him. She goes, you can find him. I said, well, unless he joined the space shuttle program and left the Earth, but I'll be there when it comes down. This is how long ago this was. So I find Chucky O'Brien in about maybe 2.5 hours. And so I go back and said, Barbara, here, call the FBI. This is where Chucky O'Brien, he's there right now. She goes, how in the hell did you find Chucky O'Brien? I said, well, I don't think that's really relevant, but if you really want to know how I did it. So in sworn statements that I had access to, two things that stood out to me was I was looking for people who actually supported Chucky O'Brien and his ex-wife. His ex-wife had nothing bad to say about Chucky O'Brien. These are old documents. And also Chucky O'Brien had a son, Chucky Jr. So on Father's Day, what I did, I accessed by unorthodox means, I accessed Chucky O'Brien Jr.'s phone records. And I accessed Chucky O'Brien's ex-wife's phone records. And I accessed them on Father's Day. In other words, I wanted to see what calls were made on Father's Day from Chucky O'Brien Jr. Now, don't forget, Chucky O'Brien Jr. and Chucky O'Brien's ex-wife has told the FBI, we don't know where he's at. We have no contact. Bullshit. So guess what I found? I got 3 phone calls, one phone call the day before and 2 on Father's Day from Chucky O'Brien to a phone in Florida, in West Palm Beach. I got 2 phone calls the day of Father's Day and the day after Father's Day from the ex-wife's phone to that same phone number. I go back 6 months, there's no cross-reference. On Father's Day, these 2 people who told the FBI, we don't know no Chucky O'Brien, are calling this number. So I call a PI buddy of mine down in West Palm Beach. I said, hey, call him the Snake. I said, hey, do me a favor, go out to this address. I traced the phone, and I said, got that address, and I'm going to send you a picture of a guy. I sent him a picture. I said, go out there and see if there's characters around that property. He goes, what's going on? I said, just match it up, okay? I'm looking for this guy named Chucky O'Brien. And I said, you can pretext the door. I don't care what you do. I'm not telling you how to be a PI. And he calls me back about an hour and a half later and says, hey, that picture you sent me, he goes, that guy answered the door. I said, you're sure? He goes, Joe, he answered the door. he's there, and he was in a bathrobe, which means he's living there. This was like 9 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, on that and what the conversation with how they followed up, I have no idea. But I found a guy in less than 2 hours, maybe 2.5. Okay, I'm a little slow sometimes. Right, Allison? I found, and so now, unbeknownst to me, Barbara calls the media. And all of a sudden, somebody called me and said, hey, Colonel, you're on Channel 2. And here's Barbara in an interview. I think you can access that off Channel 2's site or on YouTube. Here's Barbara, still pissed off, saying that the FBI couldn't find this possible witness to interview. So I hired Joe Adams, a private detective, and he had him in a couple of hours. And she was upset.
I bet she was.
That's a true story. So now what the FBI did with that information, I have no idea. But,
well,
anyway.
It's interesting to hear, the truth of what all is, has gone on. Because, there's a lot of people who, like me, you hear rumors, you don't really know what to believe or what not to believe. And especially something so close to, the St. Louis area. And, I was around during those times when there was a lot of mob activity in the St. Louis area. My own brother's got, in trouble for making bombs. I told that story the other day about our house being raided.
The Michaels and the Leisures, that was fun times. I'd work out in this gym, and this tow truck was always pulled up outside, and the engine was running. The guys inside working out. And I asked him one time, I said, hey, your tow truck, every time you come over here to work out, how come you leave your tow truck in the out front of the gym, leave it running? He goes, because I'm one of the Michaels. So what he was doing is keeping his tow truck so the Leisures couldn't put a bomb in his car. Now, I actually worked for the Michaels because one of them went to jail for murder, and I actually worked part of that case trying to get him set free, but he was guilty. I mean, I knew it from day one. Anyway,
those are Colonel Adams. Those are topics, unfortunately, I cannot discuss. But I was around during that time. I lived through a lot of that stuff, and I unfortunately can't talk about it. But it is interesting. But something I do want to bring up, because I know there's so many things you probably want to talk about before you get to something else, is Robert on the comment line. He mentioned China, their new AI technology, DeepSeek. And he was just wondering if you had any comment on DeepSeek and where we are in the AI game, because I always say that I feel we are far behind the game when it comes to AI and the technology that China and Russia have.
Well, they got more than they're talking about. If we already know what they've got, then they've got much more than that. I mean, here's the thing. Now, I'm an old guy, okay? So here, this AI stuff. Did everybody forget the movie Terminator? I mean, I think that should answer your question right there. I mean, the Terminator, and that's all AI. So that's. I don't really, I'm military. I really don't involve myself with AI and all that, but I know one thing. AI is like giving a baby a hand grenade. Very dangerous. In fact, I got a baby in a hand grenade story that I'll share another time with. Did I ever tell you the baby in a hand grenade story?
I don't think so.
Okay, we don't. Anyway, sometime remind me, and I'll tell you a story about a baby in a hand grenade. Anyway, FAA did all this smoke and mirror stuff. Oh, by the way, yeah.
Nope, there you go.
Anyway, I got a bunch of that stuff. Deportation. Hey, it's going to be interesting to see what the Trump administration is going to do once they run out of bad guys. Right now, the cover is bad guys, bad guys, bad guys. And of course, the media is just like in Gaza. If 10 people get killed, they show the picture of the baby. Sympathy, bad guys. Anyway, it's going to be interesting. Now they should have already. If I think of it, they should have already done it, because don't forget, at one time I played a different game with the government when I was with the CIA. Trump and maybe he's done this. I haven't heard. I've been kind of busy working around the house. Why don't he offer a free flight to any illegal to turn themselves in and fly them home?
Right. That's right.
It's to economic benefit, because if an illegal's caught in this country, there's a good chance they can't even come back in legally on a
20
visa
years.
or anything for 20 years.
That's right.
So why risk that? If you feel that, if they feel that they're going to come after them eventually, then take a free flight home.
But the problem, Colonel Adams, is that the media is not reporting the truth. And, I've talked about this a lot, probably every day this week, is that the media is not reporting the truth. Now, word is starting to spread, but by and large, the people who are here illegally, by and large, don't understand that if they don't self-deport, and eventually when the government, when ICE makes their way to those people and they are stopped in a traffic stop, or they're stopped at a checkpoint, or somebody else around them is caught and they get caught up in that mix and they haven't self-deported, they will not be able to enter our country again for 20 years. And I think if they all knew that, we would even see by far more self-deportations than we do. But the media doesn't want to tell them the truth.
The cartel's also got a big heavy hand on them in this country. The cartel brought them here. They paid the cartel. They're working for the cartel. The cartel's still shaking them down for payments. And the cartel's not going to share that information. They want them here. But
yes,
also we're going to have. There's been some engagements on the border recently with Border Patrol and the cartels. Okay, so the Border Patrol finally got their act together and are flying a massive drone surveillance on the border, which they should. And the cartel's taking pot shots at them. Even if it's cartel staged, we're going to have an engagement of some proportion on the border with the cartel. Now, why the Mexican army? Well, I know the answer. The Mexican army should be on the border, protecting their side of the border, right? Which means get rid of the cartel. Well, they won't do that because they're in the pockets of the cartel. See, it's all, Honduras used to be the most corrupt country in the Americas, but now, of course, it's Mexico. So anyway, it's gonna get ugly down there, and don't forget we got 500 Marines down there, which is like sending 2.5 million National Guard. But we got 500 Marines, and if they want to dance, we brought the band. So anytime they want, if they want to feel real froggy, start jumping, and the Marines will take care of that real fast. The real problem with the border is the Rio Grande River.
Yes.
Well, why we ought to annex a part of Mexico and build a wall on that side of the south side of the Rio Grande. The Rio Grande's a nightmare to protect that. Massive amount of people is going to take to protect the Rio Grande. And of course, the border runs down the center of the Rio Grande. I mean, that was a mistake, and our founding fathers drew that out anyway.
Yeah, and the terrain there is so difficult as well that we almost have to go on the other side, like you said, into a portion of Mexico to truly secure that area.
Well, did you ever see the Wall of China? The Great Wall of China?
If they did it, we can do it.
Right. 1,000 years ago, they built that thing, and look at the terrain that crossed. We can do it. It's going to be expensive. We can do it, but you got to man it.
Yes. Yeah, and China does.
Yeah,
with their Great Wall, they do.
Yeah, the Great Wall of China, how they drove ox carts on top of that thing. But of course, that's the Chinese. They got all the patience in the world. Anyway.
They do. Colonel Adams, one more thing I want to add in, and sorry I keep bombarding you with questions, is we've you and I on this show, for several weeks in a row, we've talked about deportations coming, and we've talked about what could potentially happen once these deportations are underway, because we know right now phase one, which is they're going after the most violent criminals, here in our country, gang members, pedophiles, traffickers, cartel members, etc. Where do you see this going? As right now, I think I didn't look at the numbers this morning. I know there have been about 7,000 to 8,000 deportations according to ICE. They post the number every day on their X page. But where do we go from here? Do you see us coming into a very serious situation with all these food processing plants that may not have workers, a lot of factories potentially shutting down? I'm curious what you see how you see this looking, because think about all of the illegals in states like California and Arizona and New Mexico and so on that do work at a lot of these food processing plants and
Hey,
farms and so on.
some of those plants are 100%
Yes, they are.
foreign labor. 100%
Even
because they
here in
work cheap.
Missouri.
Yeah, we had that conversation.
Yes.
And the locals, like I told you before, the locals have told me that when the time comes, and they're going to run them all out. So, vigilante style. So I just told them, I said, don't tell me your names. I don't know where you live, because if I'm ever asked, I'm not going to lie. And the fifth only goes so far. So no, we got some major problems, but greeny corporate owners, cheap labor. Yeah, we got a problem. And they talk about, how it's going to affect the agriculture business and everything. I think temporary visas and stuff to come over to pick strawberries or pick apple. I mean, nobody does that anymore. I think the foreign workers coming over for agriculture is like less than 5% of the agriculture.
Exactly. I was just talking about that. I don't know. I think one day last week, exactly that, and I'm not personally worried about the farms, because I think that if the farmers need, those extra hands, they hire, what you said, a lot of workers to come over, do the work and go. They have a lot of automated equipment now. There's a lot around the farm, but, I'm more worried about these food processing plants, one being in Missouri, where they're just like you said, 100% illegal workers. What's going to happen? And I've already heard, there's already video of people going to these processing plants and say, look, the lights are out. There's no one here. There's no one here. What's going to happen?
Like that one down in southern Missouri, lady had worked there 23 years, and up to a supervisor level. She basically ran the plant, and they fired her because she couldn't speak the foreign languages. They had to hire somebody as a translator. So they systematically in this town relied on this processing plant. That was the big factory in the town, and systematically they got rid of the local workers and brought in foreign workers, and ended up firing her because she couldn't understand the language to control the labor. We got some major problems coming. It's like building custom motorcycles. You change one part in your motorcycle, you got to change 10 parts behind it. We're dealing with a custom motorcycle situation, and all these things that we're doing right now in the Trump administration are very, very positive, very good. But for every action, there's a reaction, and we have not got to the reactionary points yet. We got some big problems. He's got 4 years. What I say the other day, if he had nothing else other than control the border, it's a full-time job, and he'd be lucky to get that done in 4 years. So we got some major problems. Hey, I'm going to let you go because I know you got to finish up. And I just I hear now that you've got some listeners in Ohio. I want to give a shout out to Marcia Hogger. Now she's embarrassed. One of my old girlfriends back in Ohio, and she called me, wished me a happy birthday, and I told her you should listen to Tabs on Tap and get a kick out of me because I haven't seen her in decades. That's how it's
and happy birthday to you also, Colonel Adams.
Yeah, it's just coincidentally the Washington Guard anniversary is the same day as my birthday, and that was not intended. It was just I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday or a Saturday, and I was off, and we started the Washington Guard with 9 people, just like my grandfather started with the Sons of Liberty to start the Revolutionary with 9 people. So don't tell me it can't be done. We do the impossible. Well,
yes, you do.
So anyway, and people are still asking, what should I do? Get prepared. When you join the Washington Guard, you're no longer alone. Look us up at WashingtonGuard.com or paste it at WashingtonGuard.com. And get any questions about what you should be doing in the future and planning. Worst case scenario, join the Guard. Tabitha, love you to death. Allison, see you later. And I'll see you next Wednesday.
Oh, there we are. I guess we're back. I don't know what happened. I apologize for that. I saw. See, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. What could be going on? Why we are frozen right now? Are we back? I think we're back. I think we're back. I don't know what's happening. Like I said, I think that maybe they hear us talking about Colonel Adams and about Jimmy Hoffa, and they're probably like, nope, we've had enough of you, Jimmy Hoffa. So sorry about that. I think we're back. I think all apologies. And I don't know why that last little thing came up here. Let's see if I can get the comment line back up. I'm just having all kinds of issues. I don't know why though that it was circulating. All right, here we go. Back, maybe back. Let's see. So hard. I wish I had a producer. That would help, wouldn't it? Having a producer to do these things for me. And let's see. I think we've just told too much truth and I'm trying to see what's happening. I'm getting these warnings popping up that I violated something along the lines here. Well, let's have violated, and I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, but I hope you can, because there's still some things I'm going to talk about. So I am going to be working on this while we talk about it. I'm going to assume that you guys can still hear me. I don't know. I can't tell. I know that there's some kind of violation. It could be that sometimes people are, want to report and they can flag the show. Will flag the show with, before they truly investigate. I apologize for that. And I don't know what's going on. So I apologize either way. But I'm glad you guys can hear me. We are going to carry on. Now, you might not be able. I'm getting all these little red flag messages, and it keeps going on and off, on and off, on and off. What happens? I've had so many of my shows deleted and shut down. It's not even funny, but we will just carry on. We'll just carry on, because a big couple of things I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if Robert, if you're still here, thank you first of all to Colonel Joe Adams, for joining us, and hopefully he has a fantastic birthday and that the Washington Guard has a great anniversary. Love hearing Colonel Joe Adams stories, and I particularly love it when he answers questions, from the comment line. Because if you're like me, we all have 1,000 questions, for Colonel Adams. And Robert, if you're still around, I know you were talking about the deep seek. You were calling it deep think. I don't know if you're talking about something different than I'm talking about, but the deep seek AI program that China, we've been talking about with China, a lot of people think that it's just Chat GPT, their Chinese version of Chat GPT, but it's so much more than that. We've talked about it a lot on this show, so I'm not going to get too crazy with it right now because I want to cover some other things. But I disagree with some people when they say it's not that big of a deal and that we're going to find out that we're far ahead of China. I don't believe that for 1 second. And the reason why is because under Joe Biden, from our defense programs, we were not actively working type of defense systems that other countries were. And I've talked way too much already on the show about Russia and their AI drones, their geranium drones. And, people, I still see people on Telegram and other things saying, oh, the United States are so far ahead of China and Russia. Russia's, that's something I read this morning. But the fact that's not true, Russia's AI technology is revolutionary. Between the Oreshnik missile, which does have some AI capabilities, to their geranium drones. Now we have China with their deep seek technology. And I'll tell you, what I've seen of it is very similar to what Russia has with these geranium drones. And it all relates back to AI. And it's much more than your Chat GPT. We'll be talking a lot about these different AI programs as we carry on in the show in the coming days and weeks as more information, of course, is revealed. But think about it from a defense perspective. AI is not just about us going on and asking questions to Chat GPT or creating marketing strategies or any of those other things. It's very intertwined with your defense systems. And of course, here in the United States, under Donald Trump, we're going to be working on our Iron Dome, which will absolutely have AI capabilities. And I finally got my Marla, and good to see you. And Robert says, let's see, it's going to be a game changer. It certainly is. And thankfully, we have Elon Musk on our side. Like him or not, for some of you, I'll tell you, he's going to revolutionize our defense systems, not only between space travel, but AI. And, there's so many different things. That man has so many different ideas of things he wants to do. And if you take those ideas he has and take them away, let's say from Tesla or from space, turn them into the defense sector in this country, under Donald Trump in the next 4 years, we're going to see our country protected in a way that we never thought was possible. We've paid so much money out to other countries for their defense systems, for their border protection. And in the meantime, we've left our sitting ducks. So that's all changing. There's like Colonel Adams just said a moment ago, if Donald Trump just wanted to focus on the border, that would be enough to take up his focus for his entire term. But thankfully, he has put a lot of excellent people in places of, advisory positions, as well as in important roles within his administration. And those people are going to head up a lot of these different programs. And I personally think it's absolutely fantastic. And you know what? More than anything, we're taking money away from the areas we don't need it, and we're putting it into our defense budget. We're putting it into our military. I hope at some point we also turn that around and put it into our first responders, our law enforcement divisions. Also extremely important that we fund the people who protect us. That's extremely important to me. I think it's extremely important to Donald Trump. And, in a minute, I'm going to talk about, but by the way, before we leave, I'm going to play a video for you guys. And I want to talk about the Donald Trump's executive order banning, what we're doing to children with the chemical castrations, hormones, puberty blockers, surgeries. We're going to get to that. But first, what I want to talk about is that, as you know, Donald Trump is hoping that a lot of federal employees resign. He's put a lot of information out there. He's hoping that at least 10% of the federal workforce resigns. And part of this package, he's offering them a severance package where if they resign, let's say today, they will receive 8-month severance package. And in that severance package, they will receive 8 months of pay and 8 months of benefits. If they retire today, they can literally walk in today, sign the resignation paper. Their job will be immediately transferred over to someone else, or depending on what they were doing, their position just may be completely eliminated, their duties eliminated, because there's a lot of people who are working in our government offices right now where their duties really just don't mean a whole lot. They could easily take them away and no one do them at all. They're just a completely eliminated position. And that's going to save us $100 billion, $100 billion per year, if we can have at least, 5 to 10% of the federal workforce resign. And I know Trump is really going to be pushing this. I do hope it happens. And guess what? He's going to take that $100 billion and reinvest that in America, and particularly to guarding our infrastructure, building our Iron Dome, bolstering, the security that keeps us all safe. So those are some things to think about. So when you hear about these potential people that are working in our government offices right now, or a lot of them working from home, they're not even in an office at all and haven't been since COVID times. Those people, we've got to diminish the workforce. If we have unnecessary people working, particularly through all these DEI initiatives, they've got to go. And I think it's a great time for him to offer them the severance package, 8 months being paid, 8 months of benefits. See ya. Some of those people would be happy to take those benefits. I think we'll end up seeing a lot of resignations. And Jay says, I think you underestimate our capabilities. Lots out there. We know absolutely. Well, Jay, I would like to agree with you. And the reason why I can't agree with you is because Joe Biden has been our president for 4 years. And we know that he defunded our defense, the DOD and other defense contractors and so on. We took money away from defending this country. Joe Biden was so worried about DEI initiatives, about transgenders in the military, about catering to all these people on the far 2% of the fringe left, and he focused not at all on our national security. So I think we lost 4 years, and those 4 years we lost under Joe Biden, because trust me, the military, they had their hands tied. We had people like Mark Milley and John Bolton wanting to go to war when we're not ready for a war. We've given everything we have to Ukraine. We are defenseless during those 4 years. We were weak during those 4 years, and that's all turned around. But during those 4 years that we had a timeout, these other countries were building themselves up, particularly countries like Russia and China, people who are part of BRICS, because they have the money now. They have benefited from Joe Biden being our president and from the weaknesses we've had within our military structure. So I think we had a 4-year timeout, and now we've got a lot of catching up to do. I have no doubt that Donald Trump will make sure we do catch up, and I have no doubt that we're going to come up with a program, and it will be AI. It has to be AI to beat what they're doing, because that's where things are going. If you look at the wars that are taking place around the world, these wars are being fought with drones. They're being fought with AI drones. Think about that, with AI-controlled missiles. We have to get ahead of the game. We have nothing that compares to the Oreshnik missile that Russia has. We have nothing. And, are there plans maybe somewhere down the road? Our military did have plans to make something along these lines, but then we had a 4-year timeout where absolutely nothing was being done. A lot of people I know who were working on these different teams that at one time were part of the planning process. And believe it or not, some of you know this, maybe some of you don't. A lot of that planning happens right here in the St. Louis area. There is an area over at Lambert Airport where we have military analysts from the J8 team, people who work directly for the Joint Chief of Staffs here in the St. Louis area. At the time when I knew these people, they were here about 1 week out of every month, and they were working diligently on our defense and in testing and planning and different types of aircraft and different types of weapons. And from what I understand, when Joe Biden took office, all of that stopped. All of it stopped, and or at least dwindled down, and we just weren't being defensive anymore. We cared more about protecting the Biden crime family's dirty little secrets over in Ukraine than we did about our own defense. That's all Biden worried about was Ukraine. Didn't care about us. He just wanted to make sure the Biden crime family, that their legacy wasn't uncovered with all these secret biolabs and trafficking. And you guys know the story over there. So we'll see what happens, but I think we have a lot of work to do. We have a long way to go to catch up to some of these other countries. And I would love, Jay, to be as optimistic as you are and say, we've got secret programs in the works and we're so far ahead of them, but I just don't believe it to be true. And I hate to say that, but I just don't believe it to be true, because we had Joe Biden at the helm, and that man didn't care anything about our national security. All he cared about was pocketing money for himself and his family. And I would say the same for the rest of Congress, minus maybe a very tiny handful. Congress, the Biden crime family, they were just making money off of us. All that money, all those weapons going over there being sold on the black market, they didn't care about us. Thank God for Donald Trump, and he's going to turn things around. No question about it. So I want to talk a little bit before we have to go. Since I started pretty much on time today, I can't go too far over my time. But I want to talk about Donald Trump's executive order banning chemical castration. And, I'll read his direct statement to you. But first, I want you guys to see this video, because, a lot of people in our minds think, well, maybe he went too far banning puberty blockers and chemical castration and transgender surgery, because a lot of people think, oh, well, that's 17-year-olds it's affecting, it's 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds. No, it's children. Sometimes I've heard as young as 3 years old, these parents have lost their mind. And I'm going to show you this video here, and you're probably going to feel a lot like I do, where I'm looking at this mother in this video and I'm thinking, what are you doing to your son? And this is a little boy, by the way. And I believe he is about 10 years old
Dr.
in this
Olson
video.
had
so take
a
a look at this. It's only about a minute
You are
long.
in the perfect place to start on blockers.
And she promises to begin giving her estrogen, female hormones, in 2 years.
Around 13.
Well, it is. It should.
That's what I think. Yes, you're not going to develop breast buds on the blockers. But you're not going to wait until 16 to start. You know that, okay?
Oh, what happened?
Dr.
All right,
Olson
sorry, let's try that
had
again.
a decision.
Still
You are
having-
in the perfect place to start on blockers.
And she promises to begin giving her estrogen, female hormones, in 2 years.
Around 13. That's what I think. Yes, you're not going to develop breast buds on the blockers. But you're not going to wait until 16 to start. You know that, okay?
Josie received the blockers as an implant in her arm.
It's okay if you cry.
So with all the bravery she could muster,
You're gonna feel a little bit of a
Josie held on tight as another chapter opened in this young girl's life.
closing of the skin.
A lot of times it strikes me that had this happened just 20 years ago,
Thank you.
I wouldn't have been able to give her blockers and she would have had to go through male puberty. That terrifies me. Do you want a hug? I don't know that she would have survived male puberty.
I don't know what's going on in my video. I apologize, but we saw enough to know. I mean, is this child abuse? Is this mother going too far to cater? This is a little boy. He's 11 years old based on the timeline they're throwing out there. I feel like this is child abuse. And yes, I will be the first person to say, because when I was young, I had a neighbor that was a little boy, and he was, several years younger than me. And he was very much, there was no doubt in my mind that this kid was going to grow up to be gay. And he is now, of course, transgendered from what I understand. And, I expected that to happen. He was, 5, 6 years old, walking around the neighborhood in his sister's dress and wearing her high heel shoes and so on. And, but at the same time, that's who he was. That's how he was born. And that's how he felt. And that's okay. That's a different story. But at no point did his parents take him to the doctor and attempt to give him puberty blockers or hormones so that he could develop breasts. That didn't happen. And that's when I think that things go too far. I agree that there are children who are born feeling like they are a different identity. And maybe they're born a little boy and they feel like a girl, or a girl and they feel like a boy. Whatever that situation might be, that may be how they feel inside. But how far do we go in solidifying that belief for them? And in this case, we have a mother who has a little boy. Again, he's 11 years old. And from what I understand about the background of this story is this little boy has identified as a little girl for a very long time at this point. And, and I get it, it's probably very difficult for a parent to tell your child that, hey, no, you're a little boy. You're not a little girl. We're not going to grow your hair long. You're not going to wear girls' clothes. It would be a very difficult decision. I understand. I do understand from a parent's perspective. However, you also cannot play, in my opinion, you can't play into it. It's a very difficult, I can't even imagine the circumstances this mother is dealing with. That's why I'm trying my best not to judge her. But where is the line drawn where you have a child and you say, I'm going to cater to you and your belief system that you are truly a girl when you're a boy? Does it end at dressing like a little girl? Or in this case, does it end with seeking out medical treatment? And, and I think all of you, I don't think this point is lost on you, that this is a prepubescent little boy. He has not yet hit puberty. He doesn't yet know how he feels. Everything at this point, sexually anyway, is what is being told to him. Yes, he may feel like a little girl and the way he wants to dress and how he feels in his mind and so on. But the sexuality of it all, he's not anywhere near puberty at this point, or at least not quite close to, in my opinion, to really know what he wants. As he continues to grow older and go through puberty, maybe I got to be very careful here because I'm not going to say his mind would necessarily change. I don't know that. But at the same time, I just think we go too far in catering into it. Stacy says, I think they should let them go and see how they progress. That's exactly how I feel. You have to support your children, I feel like, no matter what the situation is, no matter how they feel. But taking them to a doctor, giving them puberty blockers, giving them, hormones, it's too far. It's, in my opinion, child abuse. And I apologize if that offends anyone at all. I try not to be judgmental, but I do see that as child abuse. Your child, he has to wait till he turns 18 years old. And by the time he's 18 years old, he will have a full understanding, or at least a good understanding, of exactly how he is, what his identity is, how he feels at that time. And he will have learned a lot in those formative years. And Jay says the media completely ignored how many of these kids regret this and attempting to transition back. And, that's a really good point, Jay, because you're absolutely right. I read a story just recently about a female who went through the surgery. She had her breast removed when she was, I think, 14 years old. It was a fairly young age. And now she's, I think, 21 years old right now. And she very much regrets it. Now she very much feels like a woman, and she is interested in relationships with men. And she said that, back then she was influenced by a lot of different things. And now that she's a little bit older, I'm having all kinds of problems. I was trying to turn the volume off on my phone, and I took a photo of myself. Sorry about that. But anyway, Donald Trump's statement, I'm going to read you exactly what he stated. He said, today, it was my great honor to sign an executive order banning the chemical castration and medical mutilation of innocent children in the United States of America. Our nation will no longer fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support so-called gender-affirming care, which has already ruined far too many precious lives. My order directs agencies to use every available means to cut off federal financial participation in institutions which seek to provide these barbaric medical procedures that should have never been allowed to take place. And I 100% agree with Donald Trump, 100% agree. And this is coming from someone, I have trans family members, 3 of them, actually, quite a bit of that. And so and it's hard. And 2 of them that began their transition were teenagers when the transition began. One of them, whose parent did, send them to a doctor and did start some transition therapy prior to them being 18 years old. So I feel like I'm in an awkward spot talking about it. I've talked about it here before, in that I feel like I have to be supportive of family members, but I don't have to agree in how all this goes. I absolutely firmly believe you should be 18 years old before you can mutilate your body, before you should be able to take hormones. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but that is how I feel. And Tara says, jail for that mom. Karen, hope you have a good day too. Stacy, my nieces and nephews played dress up when they were young, and it was just a phase. That is absolutely correct. Marla, Maluk has his parts cut off. I don't know who that is, Marla. I'm not sure who Maluk is. But yeah, there's so much of that, and it's unfortunate. I don't feel that until we're an adult. I don't even really think that 18 years old is always enough to know yourself. When I look at kids right now that are 18 years old, to me, they're still kids. They're not still, in my opinion, old enough. I know I gave birth to my son when I was 21 years old. And at the time, I felt like I was really old. But looking back, 21 years old was very young. When I was 21 years old, I was very young. I still was a kid myself. And I absolutely 100% agree with Donald Trump in this executive order. I hope it holds up. So I wanted to throw that in there. And I'll tell you, where we've gone in the past 4 years, it is so crazy to me to think where we once were as a country. I'm so thankful to have grown up in the 80s. Things, not that we didn't have crazy things that went on in the 80s, but I'll tell you, I feel like it was the perfect time to grow up and the perfect time to learn different types of lessons on our own through watching different types of television programs, which are all now banned because there was too much truth in those programs. Joe says you should be 21. I agree, Joe. I think 18 is too young. I also think 21. I really would say 25, but I know that's pushing it too far. Marla, Baphomet is the picture of the devil himself in the throne, has his bodyguards. Oh, okay, Marla. I did know that. And thank you for pointing that out. And I didn't know, I'd never heard it as Maluk. So thank you for adding that in. And it's, how can you not Christianity, when it comes to everything that's going on in the world right now? We know that the last 4 years, we thought Obama was bad. Good Lord. Going under 4 years of Biden has practically destroyed this country and all of the people within it. Everything has changed. Everything has changed in those 4 years. And it's going to take a lot of work to get us back to where we need to be. It really is. And there is a place in our world for trans people, for anyone in the LGBT community. There's a place in our world for all of these people we are deporting now, who can go back to their country and they can apply legally to come back into the United States and then contribute to our culture. And we're, certainly, I think, necessary to our culture and to our productivity as a country, to our economy. But let's do it the right way. There's a place in our society for so many different types of people. In my opinion, that's my opinion. You guys may not all share that opinion, but children, we've got to stop messing with the children. That's what it comes down to. Let's just stop with the children. And thank God Donald Trump is going to take care of the children, number one. And yes, Stacey, your brain is still developing until you're 25. For some of us, even longer. And Joe says, I would definitely be happier with 25 myself too. Yeah, we'd be pushing it with that. I think 18 is too young, but, and some people say, well, if you're old enough to serve in the military, you should be old enough to make decisions for yourself. And you've got to agree with that also. So, the only thing left only a couple things I want to talk about before we head out this morning. Trying to think of some important things that I wanted to make sure I got to. I don't know if you guys heard about this or not, but there was an arrest on Monday. I didn't hear anything about this in the mainstream news. Now, I read the news. I don't watch the news. I saw this on some of the back channels. You guys might already know about it, that there was a man, let's see here. I wrote his name down, Brian Michael English. He was from Massachusetts. He came out to Washington, D.C., to the Capitol building and decided he wanted to eliminate Pete Hegseth, our new Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, and also was going to go after, who else? He was going to go after someone else. I don't know if I can recall right now who it was he was going after, but, he brought a carload of Molotov cocktails. He had, from what I understand, a weapon with him. And from what I understand and what I've read is that he really had a big master plan to take these three individuals out. And instead, what he did, or what he had the ability to do, was throw a Molotov cocktail at the feet of U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. I think we're going to see a lot of these different potential attacks. Man, the people who guard the White House, who guard the Capitol building, I bet they have got to be at attention all the time. What a dangerous time to be working security around Washington, D.C., because, there are people who are in our country right now who just despise Donald Trump and all of these appointees, all of these people he's nominated to these different positions. They see him as how we see, Joe Biden, that Joe Biden's did destroy our country. They think Trump is going to destroy our country. And people, when it comes to these deportations, have lost their minds. They've lost their minds. There are people who just simply do not get it. A lot of that is propaganda, media manipulation, but I see the hatred escalating. And, there's a lot of people who keep saying, oh, there were ICE officials going into schools to arrest, whoever. And, that's not true. What that actually was, that was in Chicago. It was Secret Service, because they were actually at the school to investigate a threat made against Donald Trump. They were not ICE. The school turned them away, which kind of is surprising to me. I didn't know a school had the ability to turn away the Secret Service. I would think, or ICE for that matter, that if the Secret Service and they say, hey, we're conducting an investigation, we need to talk to so-and-so, that the school has to be compliant to let them in. But in fact, what happened is the school said, you know what? Our number one safety, protocol for safety is protecting the children, which I also understand. And we are not letting you in. And they turned the Secret Service away. Now, at the time, they thought they were ICE. They thought they were turning ICE away. But in the end, it turned out to be the Secret Service. And the Secret Service right now, they are busy, busy, busy. I have heard that there are threats coming from just about every state. People not only threatening Donald Trump, but threatening, Republicans in general, members of Congress, some of the nominees. We are going to need that courthouse in Guantanamo. Well, I was talking about earlier that Catherine Hethridge has been reporting on a new gigantic courthouse being built in Guantanamo that a lot of people are pretty mystified by. Like, why do we need this courthouse? Who's going to be arrested there when most presidents have wanted to close down Guantanamo? So we'll see where that's going. But I wanted to throw that out there. And the only other thing I wanted to throw out there was Tucker Carlson. Donald Trump made an announcement the other day, which I don't understand. And maybe you guys do. But there is something going on that Tucker Carlson is going to be revealing. I'm going to guess maybe it has something to do with the Biden crime family. I don't know. But Donald Trump said, hey, Tucker has the truth. He's going to tell the truth. Follow his Telegram channel. Now, I don't think it was just some plug. I do think that there was something very serious going on. And what that is, I don't know. We're going to have to keep up with Tucker Carlson to see exactly what he knows. But apparently, Donald Trump said in his statement, it's worse than you think. So I'll be very curious. And to me, Tucker Carlson already tells a lot of truth. I haven't, caught up to his show here recently. I've just been too busy. But I'm going to be keeping an eye out for what that truth is. And Tracy, let's see. I can't see what the link is. And on the show live, I don't have any way to press it. So let's see. It looks like it's about Medicaid, Head Start, Health Center, Trump funding freeze. I'm thinking that you're talking about yesterday when Donald Trump, now, of course, a court reversed that. So that's not actually happening right now. A judge did reverse that executive order where he froze public loans, grants, etc. He stopped foreign aid. A judge did reverse both of these executive orders. And I was told yesterday, I don't know if it's true, but I was told, and you're ahead of me, Tracy, you said politics. White House blames outage for locking out Medicaid and Head Start health centers from the funding site. Yeah, Donald Trump did not take away funding from Medicaid, from SNAP benefits, food stamp type benefits. He did not stop any of those types of programs. Donald Trump, the last thing he wants to do is to hurt the people who are already hurting the most. And a lot of people, Tracy, I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but a lot of people think it was intentional sabotage, that Donald Trump wrote up this executive order that he presented that was going to stop all these federal loans, grants, et cetera, until they can be sorted out. Eventually, some of them will start up again. Some of them will go away. Just like we talked about yesterday with USAID. Donald Trump said, hey, USAID, stop giving money to foreigners, stop giving money to other countries. We have to stop the draining of our funds for now. We'll sort it out later. Of course, a judge reversed that executive order, as he did, with this executive order stopping all these grants and different types of things. But Donald Trump made it very clear that no, we are not going to stop Medicaid. We're not going to stop anything in the food stamp program. We're not going to stop the lunch programs for schools. And then all of a sudden there was an outage. And all of a sudden people who were attempting to use their Medicaid healthcare coverage couldn't use it because the system was down, and people lost their minds saying, oh, Trump canceled Medicaid. He's going to cancel food stamps. Kids at school aren't going to get their lunches. And oh my gosh, it just went absolutely nuts yesterday. And Tracy, I don't know if that's what you're talking about or not, but Tracy says, I keep watching the left post about this. They will find anything to hate on. Yes, they will. And, Donald Trump couldn't have made it any more clear that no, this is not going to affect the people who need help the most. We are trying to stop government waste. That is why we have the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, in place, is to stop government waste. And, Donald Trump, through these executive orders, he has written these executive orders to put a halt on a lot of these different programs. It's not necessarily to end them. It's to put a halt until we can go back to the drawing board, take a good look at them and say, okay, why are we paying? This is true, as you guys know by now. Why are we going to pay $15 million to Gaza so that men can have condoms? Why would we give Gaza $50 million to spend on condoms? This is true. This is a fact. That's what Joe Biden was getting ready to do. Why are we getting ready to send $37 million to the WHO, the World Health Organization? Why are we doing that? So we put a stop to these programs through executive orders so that we could halt them right now. And then we can go back to the drawing board and we can say, okay, this one we still need. Let's send this money in foreign aid to this country. Yes, we still want to build wells. We still want to provide clean water, et cetera. But this, we don't need to send $50 million to Gaza for condoms. Let's just cut that one out. That's what these executive orders are about. But, you can't possibly talk to anyone on the left about any of this because they are not willing to listen to the truth. They're not willing to listen to the truth. They take a little tiny bit and they just run with it. And Tracy says, I know people abusing the food stamp handouts. And of course, that's certainly true. There's a lot of people who do abuse the system. There's no question about it. And I have no doubt that we're going to get to the bottom of that. There's going to be a lot of reform that takes place. There's going to be a lot of reform because we are at a deficit. Our country, I don't think people realize, our country is about to go bankrupt. And if we just, maybe even changed how we look at bankruptcy, we would already be bankrupt. Joe Biden, if you guys remember, moved the goalpost because he didn't want our country to be bankrupt under him. We've already been at a point of hyperinflation. We've already been in a recession. Some say we've been in a depression. And he moved the goalpost so that his administration would look better. We are about to be bankrupt. And if we don't start cutting corners and taking money from places that we don't need to spend it, we are going to be a bankrupt country. And trust me, that's going to affect all of us. Mary says, I heard Jesse Waters say, or someone, that they blow the condoms up with some kind of explosive and put them in the air. That is true. And I actually watched a video on that yesterday because people were saying, why do they need all these condoms? And it's not for the intended purpose that you might think it is. They are used in the making of explosives. I've heard in IED usage and other things, but it's not unusual that Joe Biden would give them money to potentially make an explosive device because the Biden family, or I shouldn't say Biden family, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, both funded Hamas. They both funded Hamas. Donald Trump did not. He canceled that program. Joe Biden reinstituted it. So Joe Biden, they played both sides of the game. They acted like they were supporting Israel when in fact they were really supporting Hamas. And so, and I think everyone knows that. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. And Lori says, why can't the other side just pray that our president does a good job? Whatever a president was elected that I did not vote for, I pray that they did a fantastic job for our country. I agree, Lori. I don't know. I was fully set in my mind that Kamala Harris was going to be our president because I really didn't think they would ever allow Donald Trump to win. And I'm still waiting for the big boom to drop. I really am, because it's all been too easy so far. I'm still waiting for the big boom to drop. What that boom will be, I don't know, but I still think it's coming. And I know when I was thinking, oh my gosh, Kamala Harris is going to be president, she's going to be 1,000 times worse than Joe Biden. You know what? I didn't say, oh, I'm going to move to another country. I just thought, I'm just going to have to get used to it. I'm going to have to wait out those 4 years, just like we did with Joe Biden, just like we did under Obama. And I just thought, we're just going to have to hope for the best. But the other side, they don't see it that way. They despise Donald Trump and they despise us. And man, I thought the hatred for us conservatives was bad before Donald Trump was elected. And I thought it was really bad the week and the week after the election. That has tripled about 10 times once these deportations started. These deportations have pushed people over the edge. And I blame that on media manipulation and media propaganda, because they are explaining to people and putting fear in people, saying that we're just deporting everyone and anyone. We're ripping children out of parents' hands, and, oh, the kids are coming into people's homes and taking the parents away. But I this is a tough one, because that's actually going to happen. That is actually going to happen. However, these people are here illegally. They committed a crime by crossing into our country illegally. Yes, many of them are productive citizens. Many of them are very good people. And many of them we want to remain in our country. And I hope they find a ways where some of them, if they're here and they're productive, and they are an added value to our society, I hope we find a way for them to stay. However, as the deportations continue, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. People are pushed over the edge already. I see it every day, escalating further when it comes to these deportations. It is taken front and center stage. People are very angry about this, and they think it's about Black and brown people. Of course, we all know that's not the case. It's not about color, not about religion. It is about the fact that you're here in our country illegally. There's plenty of people out there who are not Black or brown who are being deported. But we're pushing people over the edge, and that's going to get a lot worse, because right now, phase one, ICE and these other agencies are going after the violent criminals. Well, phase two, once we've got the violent criminals out, well, it is going to be your typical, phase two's already started. Like I said this, I think yesterday or the day before, there's already checkpoints up in California, in Texas, maybe in other states, where they are just stopping everyone. You go through the checkpoints. If you don't have proof that you are in the system for 2 years, applying actively to become a citizen, you're going to be deported right there on the spot. They take your vehicle and off you go. You don't go home. You don't get to say bye to your family. You don't get to pack your bags. You go. And then they're going to go to your home, and they're going to deport the rest of your family as well if they're not citizens. And, as these phases ramp up, as we continue to move forward, we're going to see a lot of hate. So be prepared for that. Stacy says maybe they need to take a look at how they can speed up the process of citizenship. I couldn't agree more. I hope that we figure out a process to fast track some of these people. And Stacey, that's kind of being done to some degree, because under the executive order, under the emergency order, Donald Trump has given full power to the ICE agents or these other multi-agency task force agents to look at the documentation of these people. So when they stop them and they'll say, hey, yes, you're here illegally. I know you're not a citizen. Can you prove to me, can you show me something that says you've been actively trying to become a citizen for the past 2 years? They might be able to whip something out on their phone and say, oh, look at all my, look at all my court dates, or look at all my paperwork. And they'll say, okay, we'll leave you alone. We'll move on to the next person. That's actually happening. You can read all about it, on the ICE and immigration website. And let's see here. Robert was replying to Tracy. Same with people saying they need disability when they are just lazy looking for a free existence, which is so crazy too, Robert, because I have heard that disability is so hard to get, yet there are so many people on disability who probably don't need it. It's really strange where there's people who really should be on disability who are denied, and people who shouldn't be on it that get it. But either way, that's about all I've got to say today. I'm again way over my time limit, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. Thank you to Colonel Joe Adams for joining us today. Thank you, Tracy, for bringing that to our attention, because I did want to talk about that today. It was one of the things that I hadn't yet got to, and very happy to talk about it. And that's going to ramp up those talks as well. Even though a judge has put a temporary order against Donald Trump's executive order to stop that funding, it's going to continue to be a big topic of conversation, because there's a certain percentage of the population who has now been led to believe, and unfortunately, even a lot of conservatives have fallen for the propaganda that Donald Trump was wanting to stop school lunch programs, stop Medicaid, and even cuts to Medicare and so on through this funding. And they were even saying that they were going to cut down, take away Social Security as part of this executive order. That's all lies. It's all media propaganda. The system went down. That was it. It was an outage. It had nothing to do with the executive order. And I do believe, in my opinion, it was sabotaged that someone said, hey, let's make Donald Trump look really bad right now. Let's take these programs down. So that way, when people are trying to use their Medicaid, they're going to be denied. People are going to be upset, and we're going to end up in this crazy situation that we're now in. So let's see. Robert says disability is only hard without an attorney. Yes, with an attorney, I've heard it's easy because from what I understand, your attorney gets a portion of your disability, I think forever, from what I understand. They will always receive a portion of your disability. These disability attorneys, man, it's insane the money they're making. Stacy, you also have a good day. You also, Mary. I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. I can't believe tomorrow's Thursday. One day closer to Friday, one day closer to the weekend. I do hope you guys have a great day. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap, and I will